Hey, it's your guy Tyrrell back with the interviews. Liverpool's 2019 has been off to a very poor start, this time getting knocked out of the FA Cup by the hands of Wolves. Where did Wolves go right? What did Liverpool do wrong? Don't worry, here at the interviews, we've got you covered. So on this edition of the interviews, we're going to break down how Wolves knocked Liverpool out of the FA Cup. So before we get into today's video, don't forget to give our video a thumbs up if you do enjoy it. The bell below does give you daily notifications regarding our organic, unfiltered soccer/footy analysis. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. In today's video, we're going to break down how both sides look to approach the game and how Liverpool and Klopp decided to bring in new players and how they were looking to affect the system. Then we'll get into the first half, see what Wolves did right and how they were able to fluster Liverpool. Then move to the second half, see what changes both sides made and see how Wolves were able to kill off the game and knock Liverpool out of the FA Cup. But first, let's go with the starting lineups. We look at Wolves, more of a 3-5-2, 3-4-1-2, however you want to look at it. It did have Diogo Jota and Raul Jimenez up front ahead of João Moutinho. In midfield, then Docker and Ruben Neves, and out in the wider wing-back roles, they went with Johnny and they went with Vinagre. Then we moved to Liverpool, more of a 4-4-2, Sturridge and Origi up front. Out in the wider areas, they went with Jones and Shaqiri, and in midfield, Naby Keita and James Milner. So now let's get into the first half, see how both sides look to approach the game, and see how Wolves had the upper hand. So when we look to see how both sides try to approach the game, the main talking point here was that Liverpool were playing in more of a 4-4-2. The way that they pressed, there was no real surprises here. They had obviously a 3v2 disadvantage with the Wolves center backs. So what happened there is that the center forwards would push forward and they would have Shaqiri step to Bali if need be, and that's how they would press. The other main talking point here is not so much about their pressure and the way that they try to close Wolves down. It was the fact that the way that they were shaped when they were trying to play forward, they would have Milner drop in between the center backs and he would sit into that deeper position, and he predominantly stayed in that zone throughout the first half. It allowed Moreno, who didn't really push forward, to step a bit higher, but it saw Jones hug the touchline. If Jones pushed a bit narrow, you'd have Moreno push forward into those wider areas, but for the most part, Moreno kept his position and was narrow where Jones held the touchline. The other thing here was that we saw Shaqiri drop off on several occasions, and Camacho, the right back, was often pushed forward. He was often in Wolves' final third throughout the half. If he wasn't in the wider areas, he'd push into central areas as well. And that was a big problem because now you have the three forwards, you have the three center backs, you have two Wolves forwards. And the thing about that is that there's space into the channels for Wolves to attack if they did want to push forward. And they were obviously susceptible to counterattacks if that was the case. If Shaqiri dropped off deeper, sometimes you'd see Dendoncker push forward to him. And that was an issue because he wasn't really offering much of a threat from those deeper positions. And the thing was that with Origi and Sturridge, you weren't getting much from them. Sturridge would drop off trying to get the ball, but he wasn't really varying his movement. Origi was kind of looking to play off the shoulder of the center backs. That wasn't working out. They would obviously vary that positioning throughout. But the thing here is that with Liverpool's front three, you often have different movement. You have Salah being able to hold his back to goal and hold off markers or look to break in behind or into the channels. You have Firmino drop into the space, and he's able to turn his marker and dribble past opponents. We weren't getting that from them. And you have Sadio Mane, who looks to break him behind and can get the ball in the wider areas and run at the opponents, but that wasn't happening here as well. So Liverpool's attack was very stagnant, and when they were trying to build out of the back, they were having some issues because their passing was very poor, and we'll get to that in a second, and that happened more so in the final 10 minutes of the half. The way Wolves looked to combat this was when they try to break into those positions where they were able to split the defensive line and have three at the back with Milner stepping in. You would have the two forwards look to press the center backs, and you would have either Moutinho drop off and step to Milner, or you would have Dendoncker push forward and step to Milner. They often varied their roles. Dendoncker, like I said, would drop off to Shaqiri. We saw Moutinho close to Naby Keita throughout, and that was how Wolves were looking to approach it. The wider players were stuck with the wing backs, and they were able to really hold their own, while as Ruben Neves would sweep off if the Liverpool midfielders look to push forward and try to get into those advanced positions in the final third. We saw Wolves cause them a few problems based on the fact that they were able to find space into those channels And based on the fact that when you look at it, Liverpool's passing was very poor. When you think about it, you had Milner booked in the earlier stages based off the fact that Moutinho was able to dispossess Keita, and then you had Jota pick up the ball, push it past Hover, who came on for Lovren, who didn't last more than 4 minutes on the pitch, and he was able to push it by him, and Milner pulled them back, and that was how he was booked. When you think about some of the other opportunities, you see Milner kind of picking up the ball in deeper position. What happens here is that he was able to get the ball in between the center forwards, but Jimenez was able to track him, and this is one thing that we saw. Jimenez tracks him, and he's just able to push the ball forward, but you're seeing how hard the Wolves center forwards are working. They're obviously pressing the center backs, but if the ball is pushed to Milner and there's no press on him, they're willing to work just as hard to try and dispossess him. And then we looked at some of the areas where Liverpool's passing did lead to some issues. You have Hover looking to play the ball into Daniel Sturridge, dropping off. Bowley tracks him very well. Then Donker's now able to pick up the loose ball as he's nipped it away from him, and he pokes it in between Hover and Milner for Diogo Jota. But Milner comes across to make a last-ditch sliding tackle for a throw-in. But again, Jota's already looking to break into that channel, and Milner comes across, and that stems from a simple outlet pass that was dispossessed, and they were already on the counterattack. You had Naby Keita dropping off and to pick up the ball, and when he drops off to pick up the ball, he looks to find Jones, but this is just a poor pass into Jones because look what's around him. You have Moutinho around him, you have Jimenez, and you have Neves. Moutinho's able to nip the ball away from him, and when he nips it away from him, Jimenez drops it off to Neves, and he finds Jota dropping off into that space. Hover steps to him. But what happens here is that he's able to split Jones, he's able to split Keita, and he's able to split Milner, and he finds Jimenez breaking into that channel again. And Fabinho has to come across to make the last-ditch tackle to ensure that Wolves aren't able to break forward. When you break down how they're looking to approach the game, Wolves had a great template to stop Liverpool from playing forward, but what Liverpool's shape didn't make sense, and the system wasn't working. There was no cohesion, and they were struggling to build attack. So now let's get to the first half, see how Wolves look to frustrate Liverpool and how they're able to go into halftime up 1-0. So when we look at what Wolves did in the first half, we're going to break it down to 4 chances that kind of sum up where they found their strengths and where Liverpool had struggled. The first one, we do see Moutinho drop off a bit deeper to get the ball. No one presses him, and as Moutinho picks up the ball in this deeper position, he's able to find Diogo Jota in between Milner and in between a narrow Shaqiri. He's able to find that pass. He's able to drop off ahead of Camacho, and when he drops off ahead of Camacho, who often wasn't in that zone, but in that play he was, he's able to play a pass in between Hover and Camacho for Vinagre, who often was able to push forward, one because Camacho wasn't tracking his runner, the other was because he was too high up the pitch. But here he's able to push forward, and although he doesn't offer much of a threat because his cross is blocked by Hover, it goes to show that Vinagre was able to push forward, Jota was able to drop off into that space to offer a threat. And one of the issues that Liverpool had is that they weren't really picking up Moutinho as often as they would want to as the half wore on, and they weren't picking up Neves, and Neves ends up playing a key role in the next opportunity, because what happens there is that you have Milner drop off to get the ball, and when Milner drops off to get the ball, we have Hover able to play the pass around Jota for Milner. Moutinho instantly starts to press him, and once Moutinho presses him, Milner plays a poor pass into Bally, who intercepts it, drops it off back to Moutinho, who drops it off to a free Neves. What you have now here is the back line all dropped off. But when he plays that pass into Neves, Neves locates Johnny running across Jones and in behind Moreno to get the ball in half space. He chests it down, but Moreno does well to track it, and his cross bounces off Moreno for a corner kick. Again, we do see Liverpool bypass that press, but we instantly see Moutinho step in, force Milner into a mistake, which happened to Liverpool throughout this first half. Poor passes out the back and instantly looking to break forward. Luckily for them, Moreno was able to track that run well, and it didn't lead to any danger. When you look at the build-up to the goal, it stems from those two players again. Moreno's able to get the ball in a more advanced position. This is when Jones would tuck in, but Johnny tracks him well. And as he looks to play the ball into James Milner, Milner's touch touch, back heel touch is poor, and who's able to pounce on it quickly is Diogo Jota. He pounces on it quickly, Fabinho steps, but Jota instantly plays the ball beyond Fabinho for Jimenez, and Jimenez is able to break forward. What you now have here is markers running across, but Jota's ability to hold off Milner ensures that he's unable to really get into that space. Hover tracks as well, and that's when you think that Milner should come across to Jimenez, but he's unable to do so. Jimenez is able to break into the box and fire a shot past Mignolet, and now you have Wolves up 1-0. And we look to one of their final opportunities. It stems from a point where you think that Wolves' pressing is pretty off because they have the center backs pushed out. You have Jimenez to Fabinho. You eventually have João Moutinho stepping to Mignolet, and then you have Jota pushing to Hover. And when the ball is played out to him, he tries to take that first touch around him when he should probably clear it because the press is really close to him and he's gonna lose the ball if he doesn't have that good first touch. Here he tries to wrap it around him. The touch is very poor and allows Vinagre to get ahead of Camacho to get onto that ball and instantly look for Jimenez, who's coming across Fabinho, but he's unable to hit this target. And those were 4 great chances where you saw Wolves, 1, get down that left-hand side, 2, have their press force Liverpool into some errors, 3, eventually get the best out of James Milner and force him into some errors as well, and 5, the ability to get the midfielders on the ball in Moutinho and Neves, and they were able to have an impact. So now let's get to the second half, see how both sides look to approach the game and why Liverpool were unable to defeat Wolves here in the FA Cup. The second half saw Klopp make an alteration, and we saw Moreno kind of sit off a bit deeper. Milner did stay with Keita more so in midfield, so the back 3 did push out in that sense, with Fabinho offering the central presence, and they had the 3v2 there. That kind of helped them out because now everything ran through Fabinho, more of a reliable passer. That helped out Liverpool in that regard, and Wolves kind of dropped off more into a 3-5-2 with Moutinho dropping off deeper. It was more of Moutinho against Keita, then Docker against Milner. Shaqiri was tucking in, and the reason why Moreno sat off deeper is because now Camacho and Jones were pushing the Wolves wingbacks a bit deeper as well, and they were taking up higher positions to offer that width. But when you think about how chances were created in that half, nothing really did stem from the overall shape of the play. It did stem from defensive errors, just lapses, poor passing, because when you look at the way that they did score the goals in this half, both goals did stem from mistakes. We think about Cody playing the misplaced pass into Jota. You had Keita picking up the ball, squaring it to Milner, who passed it off to Shaqiri in a central zone. And what happened there is he made a darting run into the box. Shaqiri clipped it into him, holding off Bennett. But when he turned, he fired a shot off Bennett. It ended up falling to Origi, who was able... When he fired the shot, it was blocked off Dendaka. Origi gets the ball now ahead of Bolly, and he's able to gain that yard on Dendaka and fire a shot into the top corner. Great finish, but it didn't really stem from anything. Bennett block. Eventually, the ball fell to Origi, and it was a moment of brilliance. Then you see Wolves kind of trying to react. They bring on Caballero. He comes on for Diogo Jota. But what they were trying to do a lot was they were getting Johnny into these advanced positions through diagonal balls from Cody, from Neves, who wasn't really occupied in that central zone. Sturridge was trying to stay close to him, but he didn't really do a good pressing job. And Neves eventually was able to really gain control of the game with Moutinho in that central zone. They were clipping out balls to Johnny, wasn't offering much of a threat. And the build up to their goal again stems from a mistake. It's Jimenez ending up pressing from the front, pressing Fabinho. And what happens there is that when he presses Fabinho, the ball played into Milner, sees Moutinho step to him. And what happens there is that now when they try to get Jones into the play, Bennett steps to him. And when Bennett steps to him, you see Jones play a misplaced pass into Ruben Neves. What happens now here is that he plays the ball to Dendaka. He plays it to Caballero. Caballero plays it back to Dendaka, sends it back out to Neves, who sends it wide to Jimenez, to Vinagre. Vinagre eventually has no option out in terms of delivering a cross, so he plays it back to Neves, who's not close by Shaqiri, and he's ended up firing a shot into the bottom corner that a lot of people would like to feel that Mignolet should have saved. Shortly after that, their pressing again causes some issues. It's Fabinho being pressed by Jimenez. The ball bounces into the path of Hover, and Jimenez tracks that as well and is able to brush him off the ball and round Mignolet, but not able to put his effort into the net. Liverpool eventually make changes. They move to a 4-2-3-1. They bring on Salah. They bring on Firmino. Origi moves out to the left-hand side. And when you think about that, you have to question how are they going to go about their business. But again, nothing really changed. They didn't really offer much of an impact. We saw Wolves continue to break down the channels whenever they could because Liverpool were pushing men forward. They brought on Doherty. They ended up bringing on Helder Costa, and Liverpool's best chance following that tactical change ended up seeing Hover hold off Helder Costa, break forward, skip past Caballero, play a pass in between Den Docker and Moutinho for Shaqiri, where now they have the back three in a frenzy because Salah playing up front is able to make the run in between Boli and Cody into that channel, but when he gets 1v1 with Cody, he's only able to fire a shot off Cody out for a corner kick. Besides that, they had the Shaqiri shot that was pushed off the post that probably should have been a goal and set up another replay, but it didn't. And when you break down the game, Klopp experimented. He was able to give his first team a rest, brought on some youngsters, brought on players who you felt should have been able to get the job done here, but they let him down. The system was a bit odd. They pushed fullbacks forward. It allowed Wolves to have space into those channels, and Wolves pressed well. They were organized, and Liverpool didn't offer them an attacking threat. Whereas for Wolves, they were able to break forward. They really controlled the midfield in large spurts of this game, and they were deserved winners here. Whereas for Liverpool, now their focus has to be on the Champions League and the Premier League, and if they don't win that, then we have to ask Jurgen Klopp a lot of questions. But let me know what you guys think. Did Liverpool really waste an opportunity here? Should they have played their first team? And what about Wolves? They continue to beat the bigger sides. Can this lead to a cup run? Meet me in the comments below. Don't forget I upload videos every day, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And that was your daily dose of the InnerViews.